What we're about to talk about isn't about who's right and who's wrong. It's not about fixing your partner, proving a point, or winning an argument. It's about something much quieter, much deeper, and far more powerful. It's about the difference between protecting your ego and growing your soul. There is a part of you that has learned how to be right, how to explain yourself clearly, how to justify your feelings, how to defend your perspective. And that part is not bad. It once kept you safe. It helped you survive misunderstandings, dismissals, maybe even emotional neglect. But there is another part of you now. A wiser, softer, more conscious part that is no longer interested in just being right. She is interested in being free. She is interested in understanding herself. She is interested in peace, connection, and emotional truth. And this is where self-awareness begins. Not as self-criticism, not as self-blame, but as gentle, loving curiosity about your inner world. So, welcome to the Conscious Marriage, the space where awareness leads and love follows. Today, let's explore why self-awareness matters more than being right, especially in marriage. Especially in moments of tension, especially when your heart feels tender and misunderstood. Let's begin by remembering that being right protects the ego, self-awareness grows the soul. You see, there is a quiet satisfaction that comes from being right. You feel it in your chest, a subtle tightening that says, "See? I knew it." A small sense of victory, a reassurance that your perception is valid. And again, this is human. This is not something to judge. Being right often means you are defending your reality. You are saying, "My experience matters. My feelings make sense." But here is the gentle truth your soul already knows. Being right keeps you in your position. Self-awareness invites you into transformation. Being right says, "Let me explain why I reacted the way I did." Self-awareness asks, "What inside me was activated in that moment?" Being right says, "If he would just understand my point, everything would be fine." Self-awareness wonders, "Why does this particular situation touch such a sensitive place in me?" You see, one path protects the ego, the other quietly grows the soul. The ego wants to be justified. The soul wants to be understood, and when you're in a relationship, especially a marriage, these two voices can feel like they are constantly negotiating inside you, because you can be right and still feel alone. You can win the argument and still lose the sense of closeness. You can have the facts, the logic, the memory of exactly what was said and still feel a widening emotional distance. Self-awareness doesn't ask you to abandon your truth. It asks you to look beneath it, to notice the patterns, to see that maybe it's not just about this conversation, not just about this tone, not just about this moment. Maybe it's about a familiar feeling you've known your whole life. The feeling of not being heard. The feeling of having to explain yourself too much. The feeling of carrying emotional responsibility for everyone in the room. When you are self-aware, you begin to recognize, "Oh, this isn't only about what he just said. This is about something older stirring inside me." And that awareness is powerful because now, instead of fighting to be right on the surface, you are tending to something real underneath. Being right can keep you locked in the same emotional dance, over and over again. Same triggers, same arguments, same sense of exhaustion. Self-awareness gently interrupts the cycle. It says, "Let's slow down. Let's look inward. Let's understand what is actually happening here." And that is where growth lies. Now let's be very tender here. Because many women who are drawn to emotional growth are already carrying too much responsibility. You've likely spent years asking yourself, "What did I do wrong? How could I have handled that better? Maybe I'm too sensitive, too much, too emotional." So when we talk about seeing your role, this is not about piling more weight onto your heart. Hear me well, ladies. Self-awareness is not self-attack. It is self-compassion with clarity. It is the ability to look at yourself and say, "I am allowed to reflect without shaming myself. I am allowed to grow without making myself the villain." Remember this. You do not need to be wrong in order to be reflective, and you don't need to take all the blame to learn something about yourself. Self-awareness simply asks a different kind of question. Not whose fault is this, but what inside me is asking for care right now. Not why does he always trigger me like this, but you gently wonder, why does this particular situation touch such a sensitive place in me? That shift is everything, because now you're not pointing fingers at him or at yourself. You're listening. You're noticing your inner landscape. You're recognizing patterns with kindness instead of judgment. For example, you might begin to see that you become especially reactive when you feel dismissed, that your tone sharpens when you feel unseen, that you over-explain when you're afraid of being misunderstood, that you withdraw when conflict feels overwhelming. This isn't about labeling yourself as too much or not enough. It's about understanding your nervous system, your emotional history, your protective strategies. Self-awareness says, these reactions once kept me safe, and now I can choose more consciously. This is where your power is. Not in proving that you're right, but in understanding why something matters so deeply to you. And when you understand yourself this way, something softens inside. You stop being at war with your own emotions. You stop feeling the need to justify every feeling. And you begin to hold yourself with gentleness instead of defensiveness. That is not weakness. That is emotional maturity. Ladies, here is a truth many of us learn the long way. Most arguments are not about the surface issue. They are about feeling seen, feeling valued, feeling emotionally safe. Two people can be discussing something as simple as timing, tone, or a decision, and underneath, both are silently asking, do I matter to you? Do you understand me? Am I safe to be myself with you? When both people are trying to be right, the conversation turns into a courtroom. Receipts come out. Old moments get replayed. Voices tighten. Hearts close up. But when one person becomes self-aware, the whole tone changes. Because a self-aware woman isn't listening just to fire back. She's listening to understand. She catches herself wanting to interrupt, wanting to defend, wanting to prove her point, wanting to not be misunderstood. And instead of letting those instincts run the show, she slows down. She breathes. She remembers that connection matters more than victory. This doesn't mean she silences herself. It means she speaks from presence, not from armor. She might say, I notice I'm getting defensive right now, and I want to understand what you're really feeling. That one sentence can change the entire emotional climate, because now the conversation is no longer about who's right. It's about what's true. And truth, spoken with care, creates intimacy. Being right can make you feel justified, but it can also make you feel alone. Self-awareness makes space for two inner worlds to exist at the same time. It says, my experience is real and so is yours. That's emotional safety. That's where trust deepens. That's where love feels less like a battlefield and more like a refuge. And the more you choose awareness over winning, the more your relationships begin to feel like places of rest instead of places of tension. And as you sit with these reflections, notice what is stirring inside you. Not to judge it, not to analyze it too quickly, just to become aware. Because awareness, when offered with kindness, is the beginning of every deep, lasting change. This is the power of self-awareness. When you begin to understand your inner world, you start to recognize what is actually speaking inside you in difficult moments. Is it your present self or a past wound? Is it your calm truth or your fear of being dismissed? Is it your desire for connection? Or your old habit of protecting yourself by withdrawing, over-explaining, or hardening your heart? Self-awareness creates a small, sacred pause between stimulus and response, and in that pause you gain choice. Instead of reacting, you can respond. Instead of exploding, you can breathe. Instead of shutting down, you can stay gently present. You may still feel the emotion, the hurt, the frustration, the longing to be understood. But now you are no longer inside the emotion. You are holding it, and when you hold your emotions instead of being overtaken by them, you lead yourself with compassion. You begin to say, I see that I'm triggered. I notice that my body is tense. I can feel the urge to defend or withdraw. And simply noticing softens the intensity. This is real emotional strength. Not silence. Not submission. Not dominance. But grounded presence. The kind that allows you to stay connected to yourself even when the moment is uncomfortable. The kind that says, I don't need to prove anything right now. I need to stay with myself. That is emotional control rooted in self-respect. Ladies, remember that growth requires curiosity, not defensiveness. Defensiveness is a shield, and it rises when we feel misunderstood, judged, or emotionally unsafe. And again, this is human. There is no shame here, but defensiveness closes the door to growth. Because when you are busy protecting your position, you are no longer open to learning. Self-awareness replaces defensiveness with curiosity. It gently asks, what can I learn here? What is this moment trying to show me about myself? What pattern might be repeating? Curiosity is soft. It is spacious. It does not rush to conclusions. A self-aware woman gets curious about her reactions instead of ashamed of them. She notices patterns and says, I over-explain when I'm scared of being misunderstood. I shut down when things feel emotionally heavy. And rather than judging herself, she offers understanding. Of course I do. Look at what I've lived through. And now that I see it, I can choose something different. Growth doesn't come from proving your point. It comes from opening your heart. And the more you open, the more life teaches you about your needs, your limits, your longings, your tender places that still want care. You don't evolve because you were right. You evolve because you were willing to be honest. And self-awareness is a form of self-respect. Because to truly know yourself is to honor yourself. To recognize your emotional patterns is to say, my inner world matters. Self-awareness allows you to step out of cycles that drain you. You begin to see when you are overgiving, overfunctioning, over-accommodating, over-explaining. And instead of running the same pattern again, you pause. You set softer, clearer boundaries. You choose your conversations more carefully. You choose rest over proving. You choose peace over ego. Not because you're giving up, but because you're finally choosing yourself. Self-awareness whispers, I don't have to fight to be seen. I see myself. I don't have to win to be worthy. I already am. I don't have to be right to be at peace. I can just be present. And little by little, something inside you unclenches. The constant inner tension eases. The hunger for validation quiets. The old urgency to explain softens. You start living from a deeper place. A truer place. A freer place. Then you realize, the goal was never to be right. The goal was to be free. So, my dear, as we come to the end of today's reflection, I invite you to carry one gentle practice with you. When you notice yourself feeling triggered or becoming defensive, pause for a moment and quietly ask, what am I protecting right now, my ego or my heart? Then take one slow, conscious breath before you respond. Just one. That single breath creates space, and in that space, awareness begins. And if it feels comforting, you can close by whispering this affirmation to yourself. I choose awareness over ego. I choose understanding over proving. I choose peace over being right. I trust that my truth is safe within me, and I am learning to meet myself with compassion. Thank you for sitting with me in this space, for being willing to look inward, and for choosing to grow with gentleness instead of force. Until next time, be kind to your heart.